BowTie Barbecue has always been a work of passion. It takes time, skill, and a blend of perfect temperature, wood, smoke, and meats. We just took it up a notch. Taste the passion. BowTie Barbecue, 6724 Waters Avenue, Savannah.
And welcome in to a slightly delayed Danny Britt show. Christian Gokel alongside the head football coach for your cadets, Danny Britt. Coach, apologies, but I think everybody in the area has been dealing with that traffic on 95 since they shut down Highway 17. So, look, better late than never.
No doubt.
But we're getting started. And officially game week, we're going to recap what happened this past week at Memorial Stadium there in a big-time scrimmage against Camden County. But coming in, everybody's in school now, kind of back to a normal schedule there, Coach. How's it feel to finally be in a game week?
Yeah, it feels good. Enjoy the summer. I actually love the summer, and you work out with the kids, but you get some afternoons. They get the time to do different things. But once you get close, you're just ready to get started, ready to get them in school, ready to get a schedule going. So I'm very excited. The kids are excited. I think everybody is.
And I know the coach and staff and everybody finally has some film to watch from last week against Camden County. But you guys come out, score a few times on offense, and you're able to shut out Camden County there on defense. I know I want to get to the defensive side of the ball, but offensively, just a half and then a single drive there. Right. What were the thoughts coming away from that one? Stephen Cannon, his first appearance as the starter, a bunch of guys in new positions. What were the thoughts coming away from there offensively?
Yeah, felt good for the most part. What we said going in is we wanted to see two basic things. We wanted to see pace of play, everybody moving fast and being where they're supposed to be, whatever that was in, whatever aspect of the game that was in, and then physicality. And we felt like we did a good job across the board with that. Now there's some areas that we've got to continue to work on, but we felt really good with that. And then offensively, felt like Stephen did a really good job of moving around in the pocket, which he's just really good at. He's very athletic. A couple of the passes were just on point, very good. The one to Bubba for the first touchdown was incredible. So I felt like across the board, offensively, we did well, and then did well of using. We have a very, very deep skill. We got a lot of speed,
right?
So I felt like we used that pretty well.
And I know offensively, again, very limited because you couldn't hit the quarterback, and there were some sacks. I'll put that in air quotes against Steven, where he just kind of got tapped on the shoulder,
right?
And it was a sack. Where that's something he would have continued, and I think we saw a few times where he got tapped, the ref blew the whistle, and he still threw the ball deep, right. Kind of trying to simulate a little bit more live action there. When you kind of factor that in and his ability to extend the plays, how would you kind of grade his overall performance? Because probably not 6-7 sacks in a real game in that scenario.
True. And I think Coach DePhillips was planning on putting him kind of on the stage and seeing what he could do. I would definitely say he got a strong B for the first game. Okay. He missed a couple. Definitely, should. On the one situation where he could have ran for 25 yards and then got out of bounds, and at one time he tried to throw it deep to Josh,
right.
And definitely don't need to do that. You take the 25 yards, get out of bounds, and we keep moving the ball. But for the most part, I thought he did really well.
Hey, Coach, I think I've been much maligned for not really talking about this group a whole lot. We've talked about one guy in particular, but as a group, I don't feel like we've talked about the wide receivers a whole lot. I know Bubba right. Frazier's probably more of an athlete, I guess we'd call that position, especially when it comes down to getting recruited.
Right.
But in terms of the guys out wide, I know they're having to go up against some of the best DBs in the state day in and day out. And it looked on Friday like we got some guys that can create some space, create some plays, and make Stephen Cannon's life a little bit easier.
We definitely do. We got a number of guys there. Josh Washington is, he only had one catch, I think, one run, but he's got great speed. Can really stretch the field and great hands, great route runner as well. Obviously, Mackay, is playing both sides of the ball, and he's just an incredible athlete. Great hands, great ability to go up and get the ball. Ganem, who's an athlete in there, but can be a very good receiver that can stretch the field as well. And a number of guys. Michael Hogan is one receiver that splits out that is athletic and can go. Karan Hall, who you saw later in the game,
right.
is an up-and-comer who's a 6'4", maybe even 6'4.5" receiver, a young guy, a sophomore, that had an injury during the spring and the summer that kind of hampered him. So he's coming along, and we're going to expect big things out of him.
He had a touchdown and probably could have had another one, and right. He feels like one of those guys where when you get in the red zone, he can absolutely become a factor.
He definitely will be a factor. He's 6'4". I bet his wingspan's 6'9". Just long arms, can really go up and get it. So he can be a major factor for us.
And I know the offensive line play. Guarantee the offensive line coaches are coming in during film study and being like, "That wasn't really a sack.
Right.
That wasn't really a sack. We would have done this here." But just overall grade for the offensive line. I know a bunch of guys who have played a lot of football together.
I'm not sure what I didn't see what Trevor, Coach Coleman graded them out as, which is never good. There's never been a good offensive line grade. Have you ever seen one? No. Nobody ever does it because the offensive line coaches just they hate being happy. They don't want to be happy. So
you can't be happy and do that job.
That's right. That's what it is. So they just it's always negative. But there's some things they got to work on. They didn't move their feet as well. We feel like they're a little bit out of shape, which we were talking to them all summer. They're just a little heavier than they need to be, some of them. But I thought overall they did pretty good. They there was times where Stephen was sitting back there very clean. I felt like we ran the ball quite a few times very, with authority. And so I thought a good grade for the scrimmage.
And, Coach, fans really got their first look there at Stanley Smart, a guy that we've really been raving about coming into the season because we know just how good he can be, and was able to bust off a few 10, 15-yard runs there. And we got to see a little bit of a flash of that 10-6 speed that everyone's been talking about. But just looking at him, again, guy, first time really playing varsity football in high school. What did you think of his performance on Friday?
It's better. What we've been talking to him from the spring is he is a 10-6 guy that weighs 190 pounds.
Right.
So that's a one cut and go.
So if you had to explain that to the fans, it's not Reggie Bush.
No. If you're just a crazy athlete that's a little bit smaller, you let him go out there and make the moves and all that. Stanley needs to be a one cut and accelerate and go because he's got that speed and he's got that size. Arm tackles can't tackle him. So, what I've tried to explain to him is try to go get 4 yards every time.
Right.
4 yards. And then what's going to happen is that 4 yards is going to turn into a 60-yard touchdown run.
Right.
So
I think of James Cook is that kind of running back.
Right,
got incredible speed. You don't need to do anything else. Just hit the hole, and nobody's going to be able to keep up with you.
And again, one cut. You don't want to just run into a guy, but that one cut, you don't dance.
Right. Again, it's going to be a big part of the offense going forward. And before, Coach, we flip over to the defensive side of the football, just any overarching thoughts for you? I know, number one, what does a Friday look like for you? Because you're the head coach, but you're also coaching secondary right now and handling special teams. So when the offense is out on the field, what are you doing?
I try to help with that too, but there's always stuff going on. There's always somebody's coming up. The trainers are coming up saying somebody's out for a minute because special teams, you're playing a ton of people. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to make an adjustment, on that special teams very quickly. Try to definitely help with the offense, but, I've got to be aware of it because they're going to come to me if it's a, you go for it situation, we punt situation.
Right.
So it was a lot. I know one time at the end of the half, I should have called a timeout. We were on defense. We had them pinned deep. I was dialed in on coaching the secondary and got dialed in on defense and look up. I'm like, holy cow, I should have called a timeout 2 plays ago. And it was okay because it was a scrimmage, and then you really, you don't want to rub it in, all that stuff. But, I told my coaches, I'm sorry, you should have gotten this ball back with over 2 minutes left instead of a minute and 15 seconds or whatever it was. But that's on me. So I've got to make sure I'm a little clearer. And as far as the secondary, we're going to make sure Jonah Griffin, Coach Griffin, will be here and be signaling to them and helping them. And I'll just go be behind the ball to help me, dial in a little bit more as the head coach.
And I know, again, just one of those things, we call it a scrimmage for everybody. We said it a bunch on Friday, just getting the kinks out. Anything you identified coaching staff-wise, just communication-wise on Friday that you guys had to iron out a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. But it was pretty good. It was pretty solid. But one thing was we didn't have anybody. So the defense comes off the field, they immediately go into the tent to watch the previous plays, right? Previous series. Right. Well, if we have a sudden change or we go out real quick and have to punt it, those guys got to know because a lot of the guys are on punt or at least no sudden change. We got to run out on defense. We didn't have a coach kind of in between doing that. When that we got Coach Bobby Baker is going to be that guy that sits in between and make sure, hey,
it's third down, punt team, get ready.
Punt team be hot.
Yeah.
Punt team's hot and all of that. So that was one thing we've got to do a little bit better. I think what I just said, I got to be the head coach, and can't lose track of that when, trying to coach the defense or the special teams. So,
but it's so easy to get lost in just kind of the minutia and just get in there and try to tell those guys how to cover better.
Well, yeah, and you're talking to them, you're screaming, you're trying to help, Coach Houston with the personnel because, everybody's doing everything fast now. So you're trying to do all of that, and then but you can't lose the fact that, clock management is very important.
And flipping over, Coach, defensive side of the ball, you put a shutout up, but I was thinking about this on the drive up here, how to best phrase this question, because I don't want it to come off as critical of Camden County, but it felt like they didn't necessarily give you a great look for a lot of things because they were working on things they weren't good at. Right. It felt like those bubble screen RPOs are going to be a big part of their game. They don't feel overly comfortable, and that was about 70% of the play calls we've seen. So how good of a look do you feel like you got defensively?
I think it was obvious that, he's a new coach there, and they're kind of working on a new system. So I think we're good, and I think we did pretty good, but you're right. I mean, it's a little bit of both. So we have to be aware of that. But across the board, I felt like we played pretty well. But you're right. I mean, we're gonna have a much different look Saturday. I promise you that.
Yeah, I feel like that's a regular season game. They're handing the football off a whole lot more.
Right.
They're targeting Ellis Williams, the big tight end, a whole lot more. Who I thought the secondary, we'll talk about them in a minute, did a pretty good job of kind of bracketing him between a linebacker and a safety there. But probably a whole lot different look if you're playing in a game that counts.
I think so. I think so. And again, once they they get in their rhythm with him being the play caller, coach, and I think it'll be a little bit different look for him.
Now, starting on the defensive line, Coach, I know Camden, if there's one thing you can count on, they're going to have some big bodies.
Yeah.
And they certainly did. You got some new guys playing some new positions. Cam Cody has slipped inside, replacing a guy was just a stalwart on the defensive line there at nose tackle for a long time. But just grades overall across that defensive line, how do they play on Friday?
Yeah, I thought they played pretty well. Again, as you would expect, those big guys got tired. But what we were able to do is rotate in pretty much 6 deep there in those front 3. And that is very good. With some big bodies, rolling in there and you give 3 or 4 reps. And that is the hardest thing to do is be a defensive lineman, whether you're rushing a quarterback or because you're attacking a huge guy and you're having to run through him and then go to the ball. So I think that was that was the most impressive thing to me is not necessarily one person's individual play, but the fact that we can rotate 6 of them in.
And sticking on the defensive line, you guys obviously start to substitute some guys in after that first drive of the second half there and get some young guys in, some freshmen, some sophomores. But you're talking about being able to run 6 deep. Could that potentially be 7 deep with old number 97 running out there? Because I thought he had a heck of a game when he was able to get in and play some.
It definitely could. Physically, yes, no doubt.
Yeah.
What I found with freshmen is it's not the physical end of it a lot of times with specimens like that, with Division I, future Division I guys. It's the ability to come to 7 a.m. workouts, do all of that, do all your classes, then go to practice for 2 hours, then go to film for another hour.
Right.
All of that just starts wearing on them very hard, and they start kind of getting wide-eyed, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
So physically, Jameer could end up being a guy, for us this year, but I usually don't count on it. Just because of all of that, it just becomes overwhelming. Aaron Brown's another guy. Played for the boys club here, and man, he did really well and has done really well in practice, serving on scout team.
Yeah,
and giving the offensive lineman some grief. So both of those guys are could be really good and could possibly serve some time down there. But again, it's all the other stuff that starts to weigh in.
100%. And it's almost as much a commitment for the parents as it is for them, because at that point you're 14, 15, you're not driving.
Right.
So the parents, if you're going to do a 7 a.m. workout, they're the ones up at 6 a.m. getting you in the car and getting you there, unless you got some upperclassmen driving to pick you up. But yeah, it's a little bit of culture shock for everyone when that starts to happen. But it's just the depth that potentially they could provide, and not just on the defensive line, pretty much everywhere across the team. 5-6 weeks from now, probably when we would start to see those guys rotate in more.
Probably, and we'll see how that happens.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors involved there, but physically, I think both of those guys, could do it.
And then moving back to the linebackers, Coach Larson Little stepping into a position that's had some really, really talented guys there. football players
Right.
that have really been there. And I think he's another one of those guys replacing the Bryce Baker, the Wilkes Alberts of the world. And he's just, it feels like he's cut right out of that same mold, stepped in to really his first time starting, communicating, leading that defense. And I thought played excellent.
He did. He was our ball hawk last week, and obvious reasons. I forget how many tackles he had.
They see listed at 9, and that's just in one half.
9.5. Yeah. And he gets after it. He works hard. He does that in practice every day. Everything he does is, on the red line. And so we expect that out of him. We have to have that out of him. We really do. But that's the type of kid he is.
And just I guess expanding a little bit more on him. He's not 6'3". He's not 240 pounds, probably not running a 4'4", 4'5", but just the mindset has played a whole lot of football, not making mistakes, going to fill the right gap, and he's going to get your defense in the right spot.
He is, and he's not. He may be at my height, 5'10". I think he's like 205.
Yep.
But it's really good looking 205.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all muscle. He puts all the time in. There's the other thing, and I don't think he got any. He didn't get any reps last week, but he's a good running back too.
But he came in a couple times on offense, but I think to block more so than
but I mean, he can run the ball and he can catch the ball. So he does that really well. So that we want to be looking for that. We hopefully get him.
I know it's the highest honor, and you don't bestow it without a lot of consideration. Is he a dude?
He's a dude.
Okay,
he is a dude.
Is that for those of you who don't know, if coach calls you a dude, you're a football player.
You are a football player. Moving
back, let's stick with the linebackers, Coach. The other guys who were able to filter in, anybody stand out in particular?
I not necessarily. I thought Colby Brennan did a good job. He made a really good open field tackle.
Because they were busy, because they were just hammering the edges with those bubbles.
And he made a really good tackle on the big tight end one time. I thought was a great play. We need him to step up. He's a senior, been in the program for 4 years, and I thought he did pretty good. Rasheem Jackson came in and made a couple plays, made a couple of not so good plays. Galen House's son, Jaden came in and did not do real well. Of course, that ain't good when your dad's a defensive coordinator. Got pulled out and absolutely blasted. Don't tell Galen's mama that, but got absolutely blasted by his dad and then sent back out there.
Listen, if anybody can take criticism, it's a coach's son.
It's a coach's son, man. It's just part of it. It's just what you deal with. But went in and immediately had a big hit, big pop, great play. So, that was proud of those guys. CJ Menzie went in and made some plays, made a couple plays too. So we're just, hopefully we can build depth there.
And I know if you had to guess, is it going to be – I know we talked about the 3-4, but one of those guys is third, stepping up as a stand-up outside linebacker. So I know he kind of counts as really another defensive. And he might drop back in coverage, but his job's just going to be creating havoc this year. Is it going to be 2 or 3 more linebackers on the field for the most part, or are we going to run kind of 5 guys in the secondary?
No. For the most part, it's going to be the 3 linebackers in third.
Right.
And actually our buck, which is – the other linebacker across opposite of third.
Which could be like a kind of star position for a lot of teams.
He is athletic enough to be a safety. He'd be a college safety too, but he plays that buck position because he will absolutely light you up, Isaiah Jones, and but can run like a safety. So that's what that is. That's what that position is.
And that's the position that the spread has kind of dictated that defenses have.
That's it. I mean, when before Coach Housen took over, we had the 4-3, and that would be the will linebacker, what we call the dagger, which would be a little bit of a hybrid position.
Right. And again, just a bunch of talented guys, but maybe as the year goes, more and more reps, that position is going to get a lot more solid.
I think so. I mean, a lot of young guys, getting, and so there's going to be mistakes. You just have to live with it and let help them learn from it.
And then back in the secondary, Mekhi Williams gets an interception there, just kind of roving and playing center field right there for you guys. But it felt like, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of cover 4, a lot of cover 2, just kind of playing over-the-top coverage for you guys there on Friday night. A lot of vanilla looks from the defensive front there. Right. But when you graded it out communication-wise, passing off routes, I don't know how great of a look you got on Friday night, but how did they do back there in the secondary?
I thought they did really well because we didn't really know what to look for.
Sure.
I mean, the only film we never had film with Coach Rowland calling it.
Right.
So we were a little bit, kind of up in the air. So with that being said, I thought they did well because everything pretty much was a check.
Yeah.
Unless Coach Housen called something specific like a cover 1 or, a certain blitz, and we got to go with it. But So I thought they did communicated pretty well with that, very well actually, and did a good job. Footwork needed a lot of cleaning up, and we've tried to work on that this week. But I was proud of how they communicated, how they made the calls and got it to each other, and got themselves in pretty good position most part.
Just wrapping up the scrimmage there against Camden County, what were your feelings coming out of it? Communication that you had with the coaches, what were the valuable things you took away from this one?
I think one, we can be really good. We are miles away from our potential.
Sure.
So that is a good thing. Like you said, we want to be the best we can possibly be at the end of the year. So I think everybody could agree on that. Two, I felt like we played fast. I feel like we're as conditioned and as strong as we can be at this point across the board.
Sure.
So that's good. We're proud of what we've done in the off season. So we're just going to have to get better every week. We've talked about that since February. That's just the way it is.
Absolutely. And a big time game coming up to start the season this Saturday night in Paulson Stadium. Encourage all the fans to get out there. We're going to preview that game against Rayburn Gap when we come back right here on the Danny Britt Show, live from beautiful BowTie Barbecue in Savannah. If you get a chance, come out and see us at noon every Thursday. We'll be right back after this.
When it comes to blocking all the obstacles that life throws your way, let Vernon Williams and Auto Owners Insurance help you dodge the hits, analyze the playing field, and run the ball all the way home. We shield you so you can have peace of mind when it comes to auto, home, life, or business insurance. As one of the oldest and most respected independent insurance agencies in the Southeast, we know what it means to stand behind the people we protect head on. Trust in the power of the shield since 1934. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Welcome back into the Danny Britt Show, live from BowTie Barbecue. Again, coming up this Saturday in Paulson Stadium. We got lucky. We got the early kick, 6 o'clock there in the Irk Russell Classic. Coach, taking on Rayburn Gap. Coach, a name on that schedule that a lot of fans probably won't know about.
That's right. That's a great opportunity for both schools. Just like our two programs, Abel's Iron On and More and Associates has generated consistent results for over 20 years. Insight, perspective, results, what drives their consistency. Definitely a great game to play, great environment. The prettiest little stadium in America.
Well, I mean, that's your old stomping grounds right there. Danny Britt used to
man.
be making plays all over the field there. Paulson.
I don't know about that, but
running down on kickoff at least.
I did that. I ran down. I tell you what, I tried my very best, and I was passionate, and I ran into people. I'll promise you that one.
But a good football team there in Rayburn Gap. Some guys on there that already committed Division I. What can you tell us about them? I know about as far away as you can get in the state of Georgia for us, coming up from that Tennessee border, meeting us there in Statesboro. But what can you tell us about them?
Yeah, very good football team. Rayburn Gap is they recruit internationally. It's a boarding school, so a lot of kids from all over the world, not just all over the country. They also are a prep school, so you can be a fifth-year guy. So a couple of those guys have reclassed and it's their fifth year. So they're 19 or 20. So that's a big difference. That's a big difference right there. But, good football team. They look like you're supposed to look across the board, offensively, defensively, special teams. Everything looks like they're supposed to. So it's going to be a major, major challenge for us for sure.
Coach, starting offensively with them, they got a talented quarterback, but what stood out to me is they have a tight end committed to North Carolina right now who runs we got a good preview of this one last week, runs about 6'5", 6'6" from the tight end position, and then a big-time interior offensive lineman who's actually committed to Coach Brent Key in Georgia Tech, right there. Another big-time guy, 6'5", 300 pounds there. So you hear boarding school, you hear prep school, a lot of fans might be thinking, okay, we're going to be running about like 185 across the line of scrimmage. That is not the case with these guys.
No, these guys have come in to play football specifically. And so, yeah, very, very different. They didn't choose the beautiful campus of Raven Gap. They chose the football program.
Right.
So, yeah, they good, incredible football players. They got that, like you said, the 6'6" tight end, and they really using more as a receiver who can run and very good football player. And so we've had Karan Hall a lot, been kind of playing him as a receiver this week, and very good player. The offensive line, actually, the 2 tackles are 6'6", and a little bit lighter than ours, but 6'6". The interior guys are 6'4". The baby of the group is the center, who's 6'2", 288.
And that's not a baby for most teams.
That is not a baby. So it looked very good. Lots of speed.
Sure.
Quarterback is really good. Lefty, just a good football player.
How does that affect you defensively with a left-handed quarterback, if at all?
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't?
It really doesn't. I mean, you play.
I think the only people it affects is the receivers.
I think at first, you get used to it very quickly, but yeah, it does. I think it affects. It just spins the opposite way, right? So it's feels a little different on your hand. But as far as playing defense, especially now, maybe years ago, when football was a little more in the box, but now that it's all over the field. You got to defend the entire field every time.
When there was boots and stuff like that, probably had a little bit more to do with it. But now everybody's dropping straight back.
Yeah, man, it's different.
That was going to be my next question. When it comes to their offensive attack, I know 98% of the teams we play are going to be running about the same kind of sets. What's Raven Gap coming with?
Yeah, they're basic. 2x2, 3x1. They will move the big number 7, big receiver in to a H back. Do some different counters. It's inside zone stretch play. The basic. What you would think, what you see in the NFL. That's what it looks like. Of course, what we saw recently was a scrimmage, and they were obviously very vanilla in that scrimmage. So it looks like what you're going to see on most colleges on Saturday or most games on Sunday.
And then offensively for you guys, I think the one thing maybe we could have taken away from that one, and I don't know what the communication was with Steven about what kind of attack he was going to come out with. Maybe it was, hey, let's push the ball down the field a little bit more. If the check down's there versus taking a shot, let's take a shot, just see what we can do. But it felt like there was a few opportunities for him to take the easy play on Friday and pick up a bunch of yards, and he opted to take that shot.
Right.
Coming into this one, how important is it that he just kind of takes what Raven Gap gives him and then let the big plays come to him?
Yeah. We talked about that. I mentioned one with the run. If he just pulled it down and ran, it's different. There was also later in the game, we tried to fit it into John Lilly, which almost made the catch. It was a really good play by the defensive back, but he had a hitch route sitting there. Wide open. He could have taken it. We get the first down. We move on. So we talked about that. That's normal. I think he's coming in, super excited and wanting to make big plays, but just take what they give us and let's go win the football game.
And we got to see the arm talent with the touchdown pass to Bubba Frazier. I mean, he's got a cannon. I think Kevin and I, there was one play in the first half where he dropped back from around midfield, was sitting about the 39, 40, and was able to almost put it in the daggum end zone. So, I mean, he's got an arm on him, but we saw the touch in that pass to Bubba Frazier. Raven Gap, a team that has a cornerback committed to Cincinnati. They got a linebacker committed to Syracuse. They're going to be able to force some tight windows. He's going to have to fit them in there if you guys are going to be able to be consistent.
Definitely going to have to fit them in there, and he's really good at that. I think he's really good. He'll release it.
Yeah.
Just release it in a hurry, and so I'm proud of him for that. And I think, not to compare, but I think the previous 2 quarterbacks who were very, very good.
Sure.
I think maybe his arm ain't quite as strong as those 2, but I think he's got a little bit better in the touch department, certainly as a junior.
Right. And it's just going to get stronger, and that arm's just going to get better. Now, this game, again, we talked about it. You played a whole lot of football in Statesboro. Raven Gap, coming from up north in the mountains there, you guys have been basically practicing in a swamp for the past 3 months. If anybody might be a little bit more acclimated, it might be you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and that's going to be the case. I actually looked, and for whatever reason, it's cooler today and through Saturday. So I think.
So you kind of wanted to hit up about 10 degrees?
I did. I was looking at it, and they're like, the coaches were like, "Oh man, it's it won't be so hot. I'm like, we actually want it to be hot.
I don't know. When you get down on the field inside of
Yeah.
a stadium like that, it's usually about 10, 15 degrees warmer than it is. And it's turf
It's turf
at Paulson,
yeah.
so it's gonna be warm.
Yeah, it'll be warm, and so yeah, I think it's supposed to be 87 or 88. So hopefully we have an advantage in that department.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can kind of wear them down a little bit.
And I was going to ask, I know the starters really only played a half and then a drive, but really only one guy went down with cramps in that one. How'd that make you feel just with the conditioning of the team? I know coming into that week, it was a concern because we missed a lot of time at the beginning of the week due to Tropical Storm Debbie coming through. So to just have that one guy cramp up and go down on what was a very warm night, very humid night. We had a storm kind of push through right before the game, as is tradition for the first few weeks in South Georgia. But just one guy cramping up, pretty good.
I thought it was good. Again, I thought overall, and there was a few spots where we got a few guys that need to lose some weight and get in a little better shape. But overall, I thought we were as conditioned as we could be and as strong as we could be. So kudos to our, Coach Reich, our strength coach, and conditioned. Really, he let the other coaches do the weight room this summer. He of course wrote the program, but
right.
And he went out and conditioned them. I feel really good about where we're at across the board with that.
Now, for you personally, getting to coach in the Irk Russell Classic, I know something that you're passionate about. You are a Georgia Southern graduate. You played football at that stadium. What does it mean to play in the Irk Russell Classic for you as a football coach?
It's really huge. It's very important to me. I've loved, Georgia Southern. I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about the football program. Passionate about that stadium, which is so beautiful now.
Right.
I mean, it was always the prettiest little stadium in America, but it doesn't look anything like it looked back when I played.
A couple more seats.
Oh my gosh, and just such a great atmosphere. So super excited about that. Hope to a little bit of pressure because I want to make everybody proud. I want to make my brothers proud from Georgia Southern, and hopefully we can do that.
And what I love about just Georgia Southern is it's a relatively new football program when you think about it.
Right.
Him leaving Georgia to create the program there in Statesboro, but just kind of establishing it as, hey, listen, Middle Georgia isn't represented. Really, South Georgia is not really represented. It's either you go from being a Georgia fan and then kind of transition to Florida State and Florida. Right. And we're going to come in here, we're going to take this over, and we're going to make something that a community that goes about 100 miles radius in any direction from there can be proud of. And now just to see his legacy as a football coach coming in here for this one, I know football probably looks a little bit different than when he was coaching,
right.
But for you as a coach, what kind of lessons from him, the style that he coached with, have you carried on into your coaching?
I think the biggest thing is it's an event, and Coach Russell understood that. He said it's not just about playing the football game. It's about the passion. It's about getting other people involved. It's helping them understand you're representing your team. You're representing your organization. You're representing a community. That is one thing he did so very well. And then I hope, and I don't know, I hope I've got I hope the kids enjoy playing for me.
Right.
Everybody enjoyed playing for Coach Russell, and I mean, he was tough and he did things right, but they enjoyed playing for him. And I hope I've got a little bit of that. And I think I probably fall more in the lines. I've read and studied Coach Saban and a lot, and probably have gone more in that direction. But Coach Russell, to me, that was the biggest things that I've taken from the way he did things.
Have you ever done the face mask headbutt?
Oh man, do I have stories? Yes, I did that. I did that twice when I was at a previous school. The first time I did it, I had to go to the emergency room after the game and get 5 staples put.
That's all right.
My daughters, who were very young at the time and were crying, and my wife Stephanie were not very excited about that. So I've quit that. I realized, why he was doing it. It's great for about one play, and then
everybody gets fired up, and then it's like then you get hit, and then it's football.
Then it's back to regular football.
Yeah.
So I don't do that stuff anymore, but I have done it before. Yes.
And then last question about Coach Russell. Just it's so cool to be playing in that game. You have any T-shirts that look like that T-shirt of him in that famous picture where it's just there's about 2 strands of T-shirt left as he's walking around coaching?
I actually do, I wore it years ago. I haven't worn it in a long time, but I actually do still have my T-shirts. A lot of my T-shirts from playing at Georgia Southern, and a couple of them look like that. And my daughters have always liked to steal them when they get home and wear them, and I'm like, let these stay here. But yeah, I do have a couple of those, and that is a classic iconic picture.
That's the one where the girlfriends and wives throw those away when you're not looking. And you're like, man, where's that shirt?
They know not to throw the Georgia Southern.
That's right. Again, coming up 6 o'clock on Saturday at Paulson Stadium. Encourage everyone to get out there. It's going to be a fun one. You get to go up to one of, like you said, prettiest little stadium in America, right there on Eagle Creek, and get to see a great football game between two great schools from the state of Georgia, but also just to support football and the local communities here. If you are not able to make the trip, you'll be able to watch the game right here on watchbcsports.com or watch BC Sports YouTube. Kevin Thomas and myself will be on the call 5:30 there with the pregame show, and then going in to a live coverage of the football game. But a really big football game coming up. You'll be able to follow along with us all year. Again, come out every noon. We got a great crowd, BC fans here today here at BowTie Barbecue. You can ask Coach some questions. You can bust his chops if you need to about a fourth down call, or if he missed a timeout like we did in the scrimmage, you can get on to him about that. But we encourage you, again, it's about, like Coach said, it's an event. It's a community. Come be a part of it. Noon Thursday every week here at BowTie Barbecue, and then come out to the stadium and support the cadets. If you can't make it out, listen live or watch live with us there on the YouTube page. Coach, we appreciate it, man. Fired up to get out there with you on Saturday.
Thank you. Go Cadets.